Hurricane season 2018 off to an early start. I'm Mike Nasa with the latest video update on the tropics. And even though it's still May, it's not officially hurricane season until June 1st. We do have our first subtropical storm, likely to become a tropical storm. It is named Alberto, and Alberto is sitting right off the Yucatan Peninsula there in the northwestern Caribbean Sea, and it is going to bring a lot of moisture and gusty winds to areas of the Yucatan, Cuba, and the eastern side of the Gulf Coast. So let's get right to it. Here is the latest on Alberto as of 1 p.m. Central. It was located at 19.5 north, 86.5 west. Winds were 40. It was stationary, drifting around out there, a very weak circulation. I'll show you that on the visible satellite in a moment. And it is moving off in just a general drifting direction, expected to eventually move north-northeast and then to the north and then bend back northwestward by the middle of the weekend and the early part of next week. By Memorial Day, we could be seeing a landfall of a tropical cyclone somewhere from the Florida Panhandle on over to the Louisiana coastline. So anybody in that area needs to be on the alert. However, it is likely to be a lopsided system with a lot of bad weather on the right side, which means if you are in Florida, you guys are going to get rain as well. I'm sorry about your Memorial Day plans. They're likely to get sloshed out. I'll show you that in a sec too. Here's the visible satellite, and you can see there's the low-level circulation right about there, very weak and looking almost as if it's weakening, and it is meandering, if anything, drifting on off to the east. But you also see a little spin up here. This could be either a mid-level circulation or maybe some type of new center forming, or just perhaps the entire system getting dragged on off towards the stronger thunderstorms which are over western Cuba. Regardless, this is not a well-organized tropical cyclone. Right now it's still subtropical with a lot of bad weather away from where the center is. However, as it moves on up into the Gulf of Mexico, we will likely see better organization, and the Hurricane Center does have this getting to a strong tropical storm, 65 miles an hour or so, and that does warrant watching it. The computer models have latched onto this system for at least a week, and were indicating we were going to see something, and you can see they generally take it again towards the north-northeast, then the north, and then a bend back towards the northwest, and the Hurricane Center forecast track, that red line there right in the middle of that. But again, it is still very far out to pinpoint where a landfall would occur and what type of conditions we'd see at the coast. And to the east, you can see some of the BAM models are trying to loop this around. The slow motion by the start of next week could cause a lot of problems with heavy rain, and I'm not kidding when I talk about the heavy rainfall. We could see rainfall of 6 to 10 inches in Florida throughout the next couple of days, and that's anywhere from the Keys all the way up to Tampa, and of course areas where landfall will likely occur, say Pensacola, Gulf Shores, Mobile Bay, on over to Gulfport. You guys will see heavy rainfall as well. If you're in Louisiana, you're going to get heavy rain, but if it moves further to the west and makes landfall in Louisiana, then those rainfall totals will be increased. You'll see this graphic change over the next several hours and days as Alberto makes its way into the Gulf of Mexico. Now you can see on the infrared satellite imagery, there is clearly a lot of wind shear blowing these clouds on off towards the northeast, and the center, if you could make it out, is right in this region here spinning around, with most of the strong thunderstorms well away, impacting Cuba at this time, which is why we do have that tropical storm advisory from Cabo Catoche, Mexico, and the northeast Yucatan, as well as Pinar del Rio in western Cuba, because there will likely be gusts, at least, to tropical storm force in some of these squalls moving on through as Alberto pools on up through the Yucatan Channel into the Gulf of Mexico. The computer models, you can see the GFS brings it into southeastern Louisiana, strengthening it there and organizing right as it comes into the coastline. The new GFS, which has been getting critiqued left and right, does show some potential for feedback issues, but it has showed a stronger system. You can see it making landfall there in the Florida Panhandle region. The Canadian model, as we talk about global models, shows the system, and that also brings it up into the Panhandle. The HMON model brings it as a hurricane into the Gulf Coast, somewhere just near the Alabama-Florida border, and that would be sometime in the next, say, 4 to 5 days. And the European model as well, showing strengthening before making landfall in that little area somewhere between New Orleans and Pensacola. And the NOGAPs even latching onto it. The Navy model showing it coming ashore in the Panhandle or the region of Alabama there. So the point that I'm stressing in this video is that all the computer models, the global models, the GFS, the Euro, they all show this system, Alberto, moving up, getting a little better organized, and striking the Gulf Coast. So that does warrant watching it. You can see the wind shear, as I mentioned on the satellite. You could just see 30 knots of shear right over the top of it. That is very unfavorable for tropical development. Conditions are not favorable in the Atlantic yet for hurricane development. However, it's subtropical and things might relax just enough to have this intensify as it moves closer to the Gulf Coast. And you can see the tropical sea surface temperatures are obviously warm enough to support hurricane development. So we will keep an eye on Alberto. Everybody along the Gulf Coast, at the very least, prepare to have your weekend plans rained out as Alberto moves on off in your general direction over the next 4 or 5 days. We'll keep tabs on it. I'm Mike Naso with the first video update of Hurricane Season 2018.